Oh, just taking a moment first just to kind of settle into um, your place, and just to, again, I like this thing of location, and that so you kind of acknowledge what's in front of you, what's behind you, what's to each side of you, ultimately what's above and below you, uh, and all your creatures. They too are part of our arrival here. So just as practice goes, taking a moment just to bring your attention first to your intention, your aspiration for practice. You know, as you kind of settle in and in essence, feel your surroundings, acknowledge them, and recognize whatever your intention or aspiration. May it be for the benefit of all, and may it be for your ultimate awakening. How's that? So, as we begin here, I'd like you just to bring your attention to your heart. Again, maybe this is about aspiration and intention, and that ultimately it is the heart um, that's, in a sense, hopefully is, it is that guides, hopefully, the mind and our ability to know and question and recognize. And then just to breathe into the heart, ultimately, uh, I think that we talk about this thing where the mind is kind of that questions, and the gut is that kind of recognizes, and the heart is that which lives our life. So balanced with kind of body, gut, and mind. And then I find it's always helpful just to scan through the body as a way of kind of acknowledging that, not the incredible amount of mental gymnastics that we do, but just very simple. Bring your attention to your feet, and just feel into the play of the elements, kind of the earth, air, water, and fire that is our body, and keeping it simple. And as you bring your attention to your feet, then you can take a moment to kind of acknowledge the earth and recognize that the earth is holding you. It does not judge you for whatever you have done or not done. And so it is just as it is, And so in that we can have some confidence in that ability for the body, in this case, kind of that contact of more typical, the feet. It could be that you may be sitting differently, but it is that allows us to move around. And just a feeling into the feet, the toes, the upper foot, the arch, the heel. And then the practice is just to not to get stuck anywhere, but just to keep kind of that awareness moving. So just moving up through the, what we know as, we name ankles, but actually it is just a play of those elements, how we experience them. And then moving up through the calves, and shins. And again, this practice of just kind of feeling, there is the kind of the parameter, the skin, the internal, but it's really just, in some ways you could say it's just different varieties of points in space. Kind of informed by these elements of the earth element of heaviness and lightness, and the air element of vibration or tingling, or a sense of coolness or cold or hot or warm, of the fire element, and the water element, the sense of sometimes cohesion, or just kind of, acknowledging fluidity. And then bringing your attention up through the calves and the shins to what we designate as knees, the kind of miracle of their ability to assist in our steps. They say there are 200 muscles that move in every step. So it's a complex system here. But from the mind making that mindfulness, that awareness, then it is simply acknowledging area. And then from the knees, just moving up through the lower part of the upper legs, the thighs. And then from there, from the kind of lower part of the thighs, we move up to the kind of the middle. And again, it's this practice of just, what do I feel? What can I note there? And then from there, moving up into the upper part of the upper thighs, and where the thighs actually make contact with the torso. So there is the kind of pelvic and the pelvic sockets, and the kind of the bones, the buttocks on the chair or couch or pillow or bench. And just acknowledging that contact, it's really, there's that awareness of earth element is kind of easy there. The weight of the torso on the buttocks, and then you can just simply from there move up into just the lower part of the belly. And I like to always take a little deeper breath and expand that lower belly. It's kind of as far as torso goes, the farthest away from our heads. And just expand it out. So expand the lower belly out in an in-breath, and then hold it. And again, you can hold 3 or 5, whatever count, or not counting at all, just kind of just being in the kind of expansion and the holding, and then just letting that breath out. And just noting that awareness now, which or that mindfulness in that lower part of body. And then moving on up into what we'd call the central part of the belly. And including in that is the kind of there's the pelvic and the first, the lumbar, the first vertebrae, and this sometimes can be experienced quite specifically, but more than anything, it's more general, the whole belly, as it kind of expands, contracts with the breath. So as we kind of hold that, that's the, sometimes referred to as the hara or the dantian, or that place of ground and actually power and earth. But then you can bring your attention out to the fingers. And you can just feel, first of all, sometimes I think it's like expanding the belly and holding it. There's also kind of wiggling the fingers a little to bring more consciousness or awareness or mindfulness to the fingers. Just feeling into the fingers and the back of hand and the palms and the thumbs and the wrists. And then allowing the attention to move up as we kind of bring that awareness to the hands and the wrists. We can also feel up through the lower arms, just take a moment to feel as much of that hands and arms as possible up to the elbows. And then bringing your attention back to this belly, this kind of whole lower torso. Just noting there's the belly, and ultimately, as we move up to the belly, there is that area between, we refer to as diaphragm, and the kind of the vertebrae and the muscles holding you up. So there's this practice of including and being, again, as kind of precise and aware as we can, and yet at the same time, it's this, I know you, I see you, I feel you, I let go and move on. So just bringing the attention, the diaphragm, up into what we refer to as lungs, and kind of the lower lungs. As the breath moves in and expands and contracts with each breath. So this awareness is, in essence, is able to take in what we may say is a little more complex, because there's the lower part of the lungs, the vertebrae in the back. And then moving on up and when we come to kind of the central part of the lungs, aware of the ribs and the expansion, contraction, there is the heart and the heart center, somewhat different. There's the physical heart as it kind of beats, and there is this center. You could just, I just think of it as center, and it is the heart. And sometimes you feel it, sometimes you don't. That's not the idea. Is that whatever is there, you kind of allow your awareness, your consciousness, your mindfulness to kind of see what it can pick up. And then bring the attention from that central part of in the chest, the lungs and the heart, up to the, we could say just the upper part of the lungs and the rib cage. There's just shoulder blades in the back. And then from the elbows, just bring your attention up through both of the upper arms, the biceps and triceps, just feeling away. Up to the shoulders. And just noting a lot of times there's can be tension in shoulders. And a lot of times this bringing attention to kind of the body parts is also a means of kind of relaxing, kind of giving a little bit of space. And then as you move up to the shoulders, you can bring your attention to the throat and to the muscles holding up the head, to the vertebrae in the back. And then from there, moving into really the complexity where 4 of the sense doors are, and also possibly you could say thinking. But for sure, there is the taste, which has to do with the tongue and the mouth and the teeth and the jaw. And then bringing the attention up into this nostrils, or sometimes I know for many years that was where I would bring my attention to practice the kind of in breath and out breath. Just noting that in and out for a moment, and recognizing also there is the complexity of smelling there, which interesting enough goes directly to memory, brain, to association, all the liking and disliking. And just note also the sinuses, this part of the face, head, and moving up into this also one of these phenomenal senses called eyes and seeing. And so taking a moment when you put attention there, just a kind of relaxing they work so hard, the eye sockets and the eyes themselves, just seeing if you can't soften or relax them And then bring your attention around to the temples, and then to another of these marvelous senses. There's the ears and the ear canals and the ear drums and the capacity to acknowledge sound. Basically different levels of vibration, I guess, on little hairs that vibrate with the sound, and we interpret. And so first, just acknowledging that. And then from the hearing, just you could just go from the kind of the forehead and into this upper part of head, what we know as brain. Incredibly active thing and necessary. And seeing if you can't actually relax the brain. It's just, it's always a little busy bee there. So just seeing if you can't relax it. And I always think for these sense doors, gratitude for their function. And for myself, I know I can hear, I can see, I can smell, I can taste. And I can acknowledge these processes called thinking. Kind of the arising and the passing of thoughts. So just relaxing the brain. Bringing your attention to the crown. It's really this, baby soft spot. It's also, I think, a place where, it also receives kind of, if I can be kind of whatever, almost cosmic information, Quite marvelous, these bodies and these senses. And now you can just simply turn your attention to the whole body, from the kind of the feet to the crown of the head, just feeling into the whole thing. If you find the mind wandering off, it's okay. Just let go. Bring it back to wherever you're grounding your attention, whether it's the whole body, whether it's in the belly or lungs or in the sinuses, tip of the nose. Wherever you ground, that natural awareness. just taking a moment to notice, what is it that's noticing right now? That natural awareness, that understands the breath and the body, different sensations, the thoughts. But ultimately, that pure awareness is at rest. Just to note that. Sense of comfort, the sense of ease. You are more than your thoughts. So this natural awareness can hold everything, the body, the thoughts, the feelings, the mind. And it's many options. And yet that's the knowing, that's kind of the awareness of it. Letting go of the objects and bringing more attention to what is knowing right now. Is it here? So I'd like to start this evening with one of my poems called Awareness, Taking Care of Itself. The mind, like a great tiger, waiting for a thought to pounce on. Once identified, it makes its move, making it more real than the world around it, creating worlds of succulent identification. Today, from one thought, I created Buddha realms, layers upon layers. At first, stranded in the present, only to awaken to the peace and contentment of this simple, ordinary awareness that holds the Buddha feels right here, leaning back, not disturbed by anything. All experience empty. Need for, quote, for or against, nowhere to be found. Thoughts float like clouds, letting everything pass by. No place to stand. Awareness takes care of itself. So a couple of things that I wanted to kind of bring up. This is a kind of a special time in kind of Buddhist cosmology. And it really has to do with this thing called Vesak or Wesak. And it is the kind of the May full moon, which I'll be doing a little bit of ritual and sitting on Wednesday, which is that time. And there's a lot that goes kind of into it, around it, just due to ritual and due to acknowledgement and to history, you know. And in this particular case, one of the wonderful things I think that Buddhism has is the word is merit. And merit is something that is accumulated through, not just through good actions, but also through good thought, through practice, from kind of recognizing that there is this path, that it has particular aspects to it. And so one of the things I think is so important about this idea of merit is something that traditionally in the Asian culture is very highly regarded, which you know, traditionally is about generosity, about, you know, just having a good heart, and not accumulating a lot of resentment. I can say is how that works. So as part of that, I had three things I felt I'm going to use. I usually have to organize my mind around something. So it's going to be about clarity, which has to do with that, and kindness and ease. And one of the, I think, really positive aspects of this practice are known as the 10 Parmitas. And these are cultivations. You cultivate them, which is in itself, just the acknowledgement is in a sense a merit, and that it has positive results, you know. And they're really important, you know, in the sense that we have to kind of understand their basis, because they are that you know, they say that it creates the field for what is known as stream entry, as a moment of that we experience a kind of ultimate freedom. And there are levels to that, but just the first one is called stream entry, and it is really an important aspect of why we sit, and why we take this path as something that has this, in some way, is it a promise, or is it just the result of kind of specific practice? So the perfections, is another way they call it. The Paramitas is the perfections, the 10 perfections. And there is generosity, which is kind of it's really the first step of all of this. And maybe you could say it's the last step too. But there is kind of what we know, this word dana, this word generosity. And it kind of touches all fields. In our speech, in our actions, and is kind of the foundation of the perfections. And these are all things to be practiced. They're not, just isn't pie in the sky. This is something that we actually work with. So there's that. There's ethics, and ethics, as we know it, sila. These are just, they are the cultivation of restraints that are not, of not killing, or not, not taking what is not given, being careful with the power of our sensuality or sexuality, of our, of really our language, of our words. And to be careful also with intoxicants, So those are kind of, that's the ethics part of it. And they're actually really important. I remember when I was young, I thought, yeah, it's another one of these things that, that kind of religious do's and don'ts, But I find that they are incredibly important, simply because to understand that if we actually have the ability to understand restraint, which takes sometimes a bit of awareness, that there is a natural sense of peace that comes from kind of holding to those ethics. And the result is it's easy to concentrate. And that was a big piece for me, was, oh, okay, I don't, if I kind of follow these general rules, I'll stay out of trouble and I'll be able to collect myself quite easily. And I find that very true, And then the third one, kind of, we don't want to talk too much about this one in our culture. And the word is renunciation. And, we live in such a culture of, what is it? It's just, there are so many options. It's actually a kind of the word overchoice we have. And I think a lot of times when I think of renunciation, it means that, that I find a way to live a life that's simple. It's actually, it may be another word for renunciation is non-complicated. So we try to find a life that's not complicated. And that's, again, there's these are active, the Paramitas are active things we do. So there is, the renunciation traditionally has to do with what they call the three poisons of greed, hatred, and delusion. But that's pretty high-minded. Another way is just to see it as ways of creating more of harmony and simplicity in our lives. That we minimize sometimes our activity just for that purpose. To keep us a little more sane and grounded, and therefore a little more kind of open and attentive. And the next one is, it's like these 10 Paramitas are perfections. The kind of the next one has to do with the word is pana in Pali and prajna in Sanskrit, and it translates as wisdom. And I think sometimes, you know, when the renunciation is there and there's generosity and there's ethics, then there's a natural connection to what is wise, you know, and that's wise body, speech, and mind, that it's available to us when these others are kind of built on it, you know. And then if there's wisdom there, there's also there's a word virya, which is just energy that in a sense kind of comes from its own. It's not something we create. It comes from having built these paramis on each other. And along with that, there's the word kanti, which is based on patience. So you have, you know, this generosity, this ethics, this, you know, renunciation, this discernment, the wisdom, the pana. And then there's the energy to hold all these things. But along with the energy, there's also this word kanti, which has to do with patience. And I can't tell you how important patience is. Such, all these things are great gifts when you recognize them, and they're the 10 perfections. They are things that we perfect. So there's this capacity to perfect patience. And I think in our culture, this is kind of where renunciation and patience are not too big. And that our job is somehow to first, I just want to go through these 10 and then I'll talk a little more about, but I think patience has one of the greatest kind of gifts in being able to have that sense of discernment. And then again, these paramis, these 10 paramis, the next one to cultivate is honesty, which is kind of just truthfulness. And I think that's self-explanatory. There's also the next discrimination, and well, the word determination, which is actually an important thing to cultivate. And I think one of the things about the sitting practice, if you have a sitting practice daily, you know, you don't always feel like it, and yet you recognize, oh, this is actually brings me a little peace and some stability in my life, that then I can kind of live my life with these other perfections, you know. And so there's that determination. And then the last two are, which are somewhat obvious, is metta and equanimity. And so these are the 10 paramis. And again, they're cultivations. They're things that, you know, even if you don't remember them, if you're doing your practice and you're staying out of trouble, and you're really finding kind of, you live your life in kind of that middle way, that you will find that the metta is there, and then ultimately equanimity. And it's interesting because they say that of the 10 paramitas, the equanimity is that kind of opens the door to this stream entry, or this, you know, kind of the heart of Buddhism, in the sense of experience a moment of freedom. So I was hoping that you know, just an explanation of that was helpful. I also wanted to, and then I'll riff a little on it, but I also wanted to read, in the morning, the monks have what are called the 5 reflections, which are just as they're kind of in some ways prerequisites to these paramitas, to the perfections. And I'm totally into them. I'm part of them now. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature to change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My actions are my only belongings, and I cannot escape the consequences of my actions. My actions are the ground upon which I stand. And I think, it's very sobering. And I think those particular things kind of set you up where you realize, I'm going to have to support this good heart, good mind, this good body. And it needs these paramitas of generosity and ethics and renunciation and wisdom and energy, patience and honesty and determination and loving kindness and equanimity as kind of these are the sources of perfection. If those perfections are cultivated, and really when you they talk about these as bhavanas, and bhavanas are sometimes they use that for the word meditation, but they're really cultivations. So you're cultivating these paramis, these perfections, ultimately to experience a moment of freedom. And so if they can be done on some conscious level, then when I started this off, I said, how important merit is. And merit sometimes in the Asian culture, I think is, I'm not sure the complete understanding because they have somewhat a different view of merit on some level. But it simply means that, we know what restraint is. We know what good deeds are. And we also know that the mind is the forerunner of all our actions. Therefore, we must, in some way, learn to understand and tame the mind for its ability to recognize that all human beings have this capacity. Even if you've done, I love in the suttas, if you've done terrible things in your life, that's okay. You still, through these paramis, you have this possibility of creating you could say it's the atmosphere for a moment of release or a moment of freedom. One of the things, at the end of the meditation there that is really important to me is that, yes, these are the physical things like the paramis, the idea of merit. Those are physical things. But there's also just somehow that we have to be able to, when we have enough kind of understanding there, to turn the mind around on itself, so that it begins to see that, there is something that knows, and that knows, it's always connecting to something, And the idea here is, can you let go of the something? And the something are simple, they are, I think a lot of it is our thoughts, our memories, our plans, sometimes our obsessions, that somehow we have to kind of maybe see them, but we also have to have the ability to step back from them and see that there is this knowing that's not necessarily lost. It is actually already quite whole in its nature. And so it's not something that we actually seek or experience. It's something that is already present, And it's a comfort. It's a comfort to know that the awareness itself, when it's not it's not caught by the senses or by thoughts or memory or plans or fantasies. It's actually okay. It's enough, just the way it is. But the problem is, we've spent all this time kind of using that awareness to connect to our thoughts and our memories and our plans and our fantasies and whatever, and manipulate them, thinking that that will be where our happiness lies. And I'm not saying that isn't somewhat true, because it is somewhat true, with good ethics and discipline and renunciation and wisdom and energy. All that is there, and patience. But it's also true that when the mind can release its connection to all, through seeing, smelling, hearing, tasting, imagining, if it can let go of those things and see that there is something that's really naturally at rest. And so the awareness is not, it has never been a problem. It's connected with different experiences that then, in a sense, kind of always take us on a journey. And this is saying, no, I'm going to get off of the journey, and I'm going to see what is it that actually is fundamentally you could say, my purest nature, and that purest nature is actually at complete peace. It is not lost. It's actually, it is found. And maybe one of the problems with it is that because it has no past and it has no future, and it can only be known or experienced in the present. And the present is always trying to attach itself, particularly, I think, to ideas, to opinions, views, plans. It likes that. It feels empowered when it does that. And this is saying, oh no, the idea here is the empowerment is not through the awareness with an object, but is actually the releasing of the object. Let it go. And can you do that? And then, unfortunately, then there is no past or future. There is just here. And that you begin to relax and see that I can actually trust. And you say, that's a big word, trust in the moment, because from this point of view, it has always been enough. It's not something that is going to be solved. And yes, it's sort of like you still have to deal with the relative world. So you still have to, in a sense, understand the karmic truth of merit, And you also have to understand the cultivation of these parties, of generosity, of ethics, of renunciation, of wisdom, of energy, of patience, honesty, determination, metta, equanimity. These are all kind of the foundation of our worldly life. And yet, it may support freedom, but it's not freedom. Freedom is actually already here. And our job is to begin to choose that knows, in the Thai Yaku Ro, that knows, and that it's not something that you're going to, you don't need, fancy thoughts or discipline or incredible intelligence. This is something that all beings experience, but it's mostly always in a dualistic fashion. It's always through one of the sense doors and thinking. It is always in relationship to those things, not to itself. And so in a way, and this is always the tricky part, it means somehow, and I don't know how to describe it. I don't know if I can, but it's the mind has to turn around on itself, and when I say turn around on itself, maybe it's just that it goes back to that simple statement that ultimately, you have to let go. It's such a simple, maybe simplistic thing, but it is simply that you just have to let go. But what are you letting go of? Oh, you're letting go of any connection, even to, this is where it gets complicated, because we think, oh, the mind is just always connected to the body. Well, it can include the body. It can include the thoughts, includes all of it, but it doesn't go towards them. It simply turns its attention towards the knowing itself. This is not complicated, but it's not easy, because we've spent all this time, relating to objects, thoughts and plans and memories and fantasies, and then we want to use them to create our happiness. And it's not saying that we don't do that. I think that's where the Paramitas come in. These can create your happiness. But this is saying that the mind itself, when it turns around itself, there is also a completeness, or something that doesn't have to, it no longer has to seek anything. It actually realizes it's complete in itself. That awareness is not something that has been manufactured. It's something that you were born with and you will die with, And so make friends, try to see if you can't just, but its nature is, some teachings they say you can only do it for a moment, and then you immediately go back into dualism, because it's a singularity. It's just it's a one, and as soon as it turns to two, adios, and so you're always, in a sense, kind of trying to readjust, coming back to nowhere, and how do you do that is, you have to let go, and so then when you let go, and there's just that, and this is why I said I had three things I wanted to kind of talk about, and one of them is that this is about clarity, is when you start to get kind of the nature of awareness, or the natural awareness. And then there is immediate sense of non-separateness, So when I say non-separateness, it means that there's all the objects, whether it's your body, your senses, or nature, that there's nothing that's separate from you. You are all of it, and therefore there is immediately a sense of empathy or kindness, compassion, simply because you recognize the nature of things. When there is that sense, and this is where the kind of third piece I said, oh, there's got to be clarity, there has to be kindness, and then there can be ease. And what's interesting about once the kind of clarity and kindness are there, that there is a sense of ease, and that ease, it's not going to get on a bandwagon, you know, about being right, or whatever. We like being right. That's a good one. But it's not even about that, It's simply about our capacity to recognize that there is, when we sit and we simply note the awareness in the midst of this, it is in some ways an organic chaos that we kind of inhabit, that there is a natural, non-separateness, that non-separateness as a sense of the wisdom of understanding that ultimately has a heart of goodness or kindness there. And that when that goodness of heart and kindness is there, then there's a deep sense of relaxing. And that deep sense of relaxing has to do with, kind of our capacity for ease. So I think that's probably enough for tonight. And if you have any questions or comments or queries or.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Oh my God, I'm glad we got that recorded.
So if you have a question, you can raise your hand. And hopefully, I see Bill. Hi, Bill. So you have to unmute yourself.
Got it. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Good. Yeah. Thank you for all your words tonight. I've absorbed them in the context of what I've been thinking about. A long time ago, we had a brief conversation about, I guess, what you would call the way things are. This would have been around the time of the Iraq War, and it was a particularly tough time for meditators around your village, because I don't think any of us had seen anything like that before. And the injustice muscle was working overtime.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked you about it, and you said to me fairly simply, it's always been this way. Mm-hmm. And I've been working with that in one way or another for a long time, and to my own understanding. And I wonder if you would say, in this sequence here, clarity, kindness, and ease, I would wonder if it would be right to say that they occur in the backdrop of it's always been this way, if I've said that in any sense.
Well, you actually said it very clearly, because this is the thing. I'll go back to the Buddha's first teaching he said, oh, suffering exists. This is kind of the backdrop to the whole human condition, is that's where you have to, in a sense, the sobering truth of greed and war and hatred. And, I was thinking about, I was seeing Laura on there who lives in Israel, and just all the stuff that's going on and happens in the world, and it is really, again, this is the background of why we're here, because you and I aren't going to change the conditions of that. We can change ourselves, but we can't change the conditions of it. So in a way, yes, it's a reflection, and the reflection is always, maybe in some ways, it's always then an inspiration towards awakening, if I can use that, because then you go, oh, if the conditions are like this and this is what's there, who am I and where am I in this? Oh, well, maybe mine is this ideal, and I'll say ideal, of liberation, which, you can say only frees one person, but that's not true, because you aren't one person. I think this is the irony of this. In another way, you are everybody. So in liberating yourself, you're liberating everybody, but you still aren't changing the rules. And the rules are that, there's the wheel of the law in the kind of Tibetan and the center of it is kind of spinning, is greed, hatred, and delusion. And that is this particular realm that we're in. That's the cycle that it's doing. It's spinning that around. And our job is, first we have to see it, and then we have to say, I want to get off the wheel, and then you start, we know, as the path itself. So great question. Thank you, Bill. And I'm glad you're still looking at that.
Thank you.
I was going to say, unfortunately, but hopefully it's there to give us inspiration towards, stepping towards these perfections, and ultimately, a sense of kindness. And then out of that comes really this ease of being, so. I can't see you all, so it's, or that was so clear that you're not going to say anything, or so confusing, you're not going to say anything.
Hi, everybody.
Guy.
This is Guy. I love this list, the 10 perfections, but two of them I noticed are like prickly for me, and I don't really like them. And that is the energy to hold all of these things. I mean, that's like a full-time job. Constant awareness. And the other one is honesty. It's like, wow, that's another one that can just go really far and deep. I mean, just like my use of plastics, it's like, wow, that's a hard, honest thing to deal with right now. So I just want to mention that, John, see what you have to say about that.
Well, first of all, Guy, these are, they call them bhavanas, which mean they're cultivations. So we're trying to cultivate these towards a perfection. It doesn't mean that they're perfected, and it doesn't mean that they aren't going to be, especially in the kind of the dualistic world, there aren't going to be complexities. And certainly whether it's plastics or whether it's, there's so many things in our kind of cultural 21st century, things like, I don't know, I think I drive my car more than I should. And I kind of, sometimes I think about that, and then I don't, and so I don't know what to say. I know, when you say, Guy, and honesty, again, it's something we try. We lean towards something and we try. And you aren't going to get it right. You know, that's the thing. You know, I mean, so much of this paradoxical that, you know, a blank statement like being truthful or honest, you know, we can come to that on some level. And sometimes we're not telling ourselves the truth. You know, that's the piece I think that's really catchy, is that somehow we're trying to dodge something by telling ourselves something that's not honest. You know, it's just, it's sort of like, it helps us in some ways rationalize whatever we're up to, you know, and that's a question, you know. So sorry to say, Guy, these are but we do these paramita, we do need them to cultivate actual awakening. So that's all I know. So thanks for the question. Anyone else? I have to scroll here to see if I.
Patricia, you have a question. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, yeah. Hi, John. I'm listening to the questions about, you know, when you said the first truth is that there's suffering.
Yes.
And every time I think about it, and I think about the state of the world, and I think it's always been like that, and it's always going to be that way. And I get that there's suffering and that there's a need for suffering as part of everything, but I struggle with it because there's this part of me that wants it to be different, that doesn't want people to kill each other and doesn't want ignorance and doesn't, you know, and I struggle. And I've always had, you know, even at that one retreat in Boulder Creek where it was so hot. I forget one year, it was so hot, I couldn't stand it. And I'm sitting there suffering and struggling, and what are they doing? And why don't they put a fan in the room? And what's going on? And then I just walked down to the creek, sat in the creek, and went, and stopped it, you know. But I just sort of noticed that that struggling piece is different than suffering. I mean, it feels like suffering, but it's like it adds to the suffering.
No.
And I just sort of, I felt better when you said, oh yeah, you know, the first truth is it's going to be like, and when I think Bill said that he's really been thinking so much about that question of it's always been that way. And, you know, and I still have a hard time with it. I want it to be better and nicer and all of that.
Well, it's part of the paramis, is part of it is the perfections that we're trying to head that way. It's just that there's a lot of stuff there, you know. There's a, oh boy, you know. So in a way, the truth of it, you know, if there's some way that we can either clear ourselves or, I don't know, help others in some way, then there is a means. Otherwise, you know, you can kind of sit and wallow in it,
Right.
and that can get pretty nasty, you know, because it's, we're saying, oh, but that's the truth. Well, it is the truth, and we're more than that, you know.
Yeah. I don't know
So-
that I really wallow in it, other than I might just get kind of depressed about it and do not much. You know, it's kind of going the other way.
Yeah. Well,
Discouraged.
and this is why we have the paramis, and we have the whole thing around kindness and our capacity. So much, I think, is when we recognize we're helping others, there is actually, there is some space. I'll just say there's some space between the truth of that, that heaviness about suffering and this endless kind of wheel that keeps turning. And we don't use the word in Buddhism, but I'm going to use it anyway. Hope, and maybe not a Buddhist word, but it's not bad, But the problem with hope is that it's anticipating something. And if you look from the here and now, that's, that's, but I like it because I think we need it to counterbalance the recognition and maybe the depression or the kind of the horror sometimes, the human folly.
Right. Yeah. I know Annie Lamott, in a talk that she gave here at one of the retreats last year, said that she wrote her book and she was going to call it Doomed, and her publishers wouldn't let her do that, so she changed the title to Hope instead of Doomed. Yeah, thank you, John.
You're welcome. It's good to see you.
Marie has a question, John. So Marie, you can just unmute yourself.
Hi,
Hi, Marie.
I apologize. I'm doing work as I'm listening, so you may have already referred to this because I heard you say hope. But in the conversations about nothing changes, maybe for me, it gives peace of mind or hope that I often think when we come together like this and when at the end doing the metta and whatever benefit we've gathered, I always feel that's what gives me hope, that that's how we can influence change, is energetically. Or any thoughts around that?
Well, Marie, first of all, we come together. Yes, the truth is there, and that we're, in some sense, we are practicing the Paramitas towards our own individually liberation, but also for others, if you come together, I'm hoping this is what's going on here, is that we lighten up a little during this time together. And by lightening up a little, then we also see the world, it's not so shaded. We see it more in a nuanced way of, okay, I'll use the word hope, a little more hopeful than when we started. I hope that's true, And
I also hope but if, that it adds some light to darkness of the world. Do you know what I mean? Like it's individually, and I hope on a larger scale.
Well, I do too. It's why I do this. I believe in that somehow there's more to this than maybe the obvious that's here, that there's more going on. And I know that's a little woo-woo maybe, but I have to hold that, that this is something that is available to us, and that due to it, we may act on some level a little different, or, maybe it would be a little more clarity, a little kindness, and a little more at ease. Those three things, if we can kind of take that from this, then I think we're doing great.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So we're at our bewitching hour here. So I want to close with metta, and then I guess Marcia's doing a few announcements, and then we can have a little more clarity, kindness, and ease in our life. So just taking a moment to kind of settle in here. And recognizing, first of all, you know, you have this is, in some ways, this is, if there is accumulation, there's accumulation of merit as we sit here. And that we're actually working on these perfections. And we first have this amazing capacity to turn our attention to our heart and find some ease and comfort there. Not about tomorrow, not about yesterday, but just right now. And again, I of course, these phrases you've heard me say before, but I use as my metta phrases. May I live with an open heart. May I live with an open heart. May whatever covers my heart be dissolved. May whatever covers my heart be dissolved. And then from this body, mind, and heart sitting here, we can extend it out. And I want to just start by extending it to all of us on this this marvelous Zoom practice that we are doing right now, and realizing that, you know, as the power of the unseen, that we acknowledge that through our own practice and our own goodness, we extend this goodness to, first of all, everyone on this this particular Zoom this evening. May you be happy and peaceful. May you be free from suffering in of your body, of your heart, or your mind. May you find moments of freedom and ease for your benefit and for those that you relate to, those around you. And then we can extend it on beyond in all directions, in front of you, behind you, to the left of you, to the right of you, above you, and below you. So what they call the 10 directions. We extend this care and love and compassion and equanimity out towards beings everywhere. For the many beings that confused or suffer, and those who are in happiness and balance, may their lives continue as such, and may those who are confused or suffering or health or in their bodies or hearts, that may they be healed, so that we can all ultimately be at peace and take care of each other. And again, if there's any merit or power or energy that has been created through our coming together, we extend the merit of that out to beings everywhere. May all beings everywhere be happy.
Thank you, John. This is Jen Scott. I've got announcements tonight.